Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have an excellent game to share with you from the Top Chess Engine Championship Season 28 Premier Division. This is a round 1 game. Season just kicked off. This was played on August 3rd. On the white end, Leela Chess Zero, rated 3692, playing against Berserk, rated 3650. Alright, for this one we have a D-pawn based opening. Both sides have a kingside fianchetto. Neither side has yet to make a move. The usual case with these Top Chess Engine Championship games, we start from a specific position, and this is that position. The first real move we have in this game is by Leela playing d5. Now, this is a 90-plus move game. What eventually happens for Black, Black ends up shuffling a whole lot, finds it very difficult to make progress, whereas Leela is able to make slow, steady progress and eventually break down Black's position. Black's position is very instructive to see that approach. A lot of maneuvering by Leela, reorganization, trying to address an invasive piece in this game. Now, we're essentially working with two key imbalances, the bishop pair and space for Leela, voluntary retreat by the knight, eyeing c7 to support a b5 break. We're going to see immediately how Leela interferes with that, plays a4. Now, this is the first move that really grabbed my attention. b4 is a hole, and the knight is just a moment away from hopping to it. Black does not play in this way, continues with knight c7. Leela pretty much saying, I'm okay. If your knight wants to hop in there, I'm going to work around you, and you're not going to have anything wonderful. Now, for a human, that's kind of tricky to maybe play in that fashion. Let me show you an approach you can take as white to not concede that b4 square so soon. So it might look something like this. You might consider a move like e3, and after the knight is in a spot to support b5, you don't play a4 just yet, because there's still a path into b4. You might play bishop e2 here, and wait for the move a6, and only then play a4. The knight doesn't have a path into b4, and if you want to create one with a5, well, forget about any b5 break. All right, Leela is saying, if you want to hop into b4, go for it. In this game, knight c7, e3, b6 is played. Black is baby stepping it. b6, a6, and only then shooting for b5. If you play a6, this is a window for white to play a5 and clamp down on b6 and say, if you play b5, I'm going to take en passant, and rook a3 will be a nice post for the rook, convenient defender and attacker. All right, in this one it is b6, rook a2, bishop defended, h3 now supported, king stays off of g2. I don't know, maybe the bishop wants to go to g2 in some cases. a6, all right, bishop to e3. This is white's way to hold up a b5 break. Knight, bishop allocated to the defense of the b5 advance. All right, rook b7, queen d2, rook d8, rook d1. Black hops to the b file, gearing up for b5. If b5 is going to be played, it's going to pretty much have to come at the cost of a pawn. Now, instead of rook d to b8, I had a look at this pawn break e6. What's happening if e6 is played? You could take. And how exactly to recapture? If you go with a piece, d5 is a big weakness. And if you try to build your center, well, long term, is this king so comfortable? Probably not. Only has 2 pawns around as a defender. You might see this maneuver. Bishop is going to be a very strong piece on G2, the unopposed bishop. So we don't see the break. No E6. Black, rook D to B8. King G2, Queen C2, and let me throw this one to you as a pop quiz. What plan do you think Leela goes with here? How to make progress? Feel free to pause the video. All right, in this one we have kingside expansion. G4, looking to control, kick that knight from F6, G5 nearby. Black holds that up, but Leela insists. We have H4, Queen C8, G5, Knight G4, Queen E4. Now what? What do you do with the knight? In the game, we have H5. Now, if the knight moves to E5, H5 is very strong, undermining G6, rook pawn, targeting a knight pawn. If there's a capture, very big trouble for black. So there's 2 things really going on with this move H5. You support the knight and also prevent H5. Follow up, rook F1. Reorganization. The break is under control. Knight E5, F4. Knight goes back to G4. Queen D3. So this pawn is ready to go at some stage. Now, this piece right here, how exactly to describe it? It's in white's house, and it's tricky to work around. It's a pesky piece. Black only needs one other piece, and if you could somehow coordinate with it, that's where white could end up in some trouble. It's very interesting to see how Leela handles this knight on G4. This is one of the main things that grabbed my attention with this game, is the approach to the knight on G4. So let's get some moves in here. Black lashes out with the B5. This costs a pawn, but at least there is some, the knight not as central. There's some pin going on the B file. This isn't the greatest pawn for Leela, the pawn on B3. It's backward. Follow up, dark square bishop exchange. Some room has been created with this sequence with the knight being pulled to B5. We get that dark square bishop exchange, and the knight that's on its back foot has a square on G7 now. Hops to it. It's under control, however. So this knight, do they have any wonderful forward moves? No. And it remains like that for the rest of the game. Follow up, rook A8, rook A4, another move that I really like here. We get the rook exchange. Okay, the B pawn converted to the A pawn. There is now a passer to work with. More regrouping here. Let's see the setup for each side. Let's get out of any tricks on the diagonal. Knight C3, bishop D1. I like this bishop. Watches over both sides of the board, a very convenient defender of that passed pawn. And at any moment, maybe that knight can be knocked out. Now, you want to be a bit careful, for sure. The timing of such a capture, you do open up a square for this fianchettoed knight on H5. So even if you win that pawn, if you chop away on G4, win black's G pawn, it can be difficult to handle a knight on H5 right next to the king. So let's see the setup by Leela. No knight checks with the king on G1. Sometimes difficult to even understand what certain moves are. That is for sure. Rook to A3. Queen B8. All right, queen cut off from the open file. King F1. There is a check on H2, but you have nothing. Knight H2, the king scoots over. Now what? Everything is under control. The knight has no retreats. Keep in mind. No retreats, and you just have to watch out for these forward moves. All right. Bishop c2, king e2. King is headed towards the queen side in this one. No queen exchange. If we have a queen exchange, the knight can recapture. Next up, rook b3, very active piece. How are you going to handle that? It's going to be tricky. If you play here, this pawn could start running. This is a 1 position without the queens. Even with the queens, white is doing very well. Again, black doesn't really have anything here. Queen exchange avoided. The king is now over here on the queen side. So this knight, just a little bit ago, is saying, if you can coordinate one other piece with it, it could be pretty good. Could be disruptive, but now it's like, wait a second. This knight is in my house, but at the same time out of play. This knight is doing nothing. Both knights are doing nothing. Everything is under control here by Leela. Queen d2, queen f8. One more pop quiz. If you come up with this next maneuver by Leela, give yourself a big pat on the back. See if you can find what this next idea is by Leela. Feel free to pause the video. Okay, this is another moment in this game I really like. Everything's under control. You have pretty much all day to do whatever you want. What would be a healthy way to improve? Now, as it stands right now, the queen does a good job controlling the knight. The forward moves, all under control. Queen has them. Still no retreats for the knight. Dead piece. Watch this maneuver. Watch the rook for these next 4 consecutive moves. Forget about what black is doing. It's just shuffling. Here we go. Rook f3, f1, e1, e2. I love that maneuver. Now, the queen earlier, just moments ago, had that responsibility to control the knight. But is the queen most efficient? No. The rook, on the other hand, much more efficient. Nothing happening for the knight with the rook on e2, and there's more going on there. The rook from e2 is in a spot to support a pawn advance. This is the ideal post for the rook to keep this one under control. I love that maneuver. Okay, let's see how to make some progress. The king stepping up to b3. Queen c3, why not? Slightly better. Finally, we see a break. Black goes with e6. Now, the response here is rook to d2. Here's something I tested out. What if black continues to wait? So let's say the queen just goes back home. How is Leela making progress? Well, this is where we could see e5. This is progress. The rook is ready to have an open file. Let's say black sits in this position. Queen b6, or let me make a different move. Let's go with rook a6. Here's how you can make inroads. You can take on d6, and then check out this move, queen e1. Another move I like in this position. Watching over any queen a5 to b4. The king is cozy here. There's not a great way to get at him. The knight remains under control. Both knights remain under control. You got f5, you got e8, and next up the rook is going to enter on e7. This is a way Leela can make progress if black continues to sit and doesn't play in this game at this point here, e6. All right, in this one, e6 it is. Rook d2, knight still under control. This is potentially vulnerable. We have queen b8. Does not bite on e6. does not want to invite this knight into the e6 square. I believe with this move, Leela has an eye on unpinning the knight, hiding on c1. From here we have e5. If black is capturing on d5, the rook is going to be the one to recapture. This can be won very soon. We don't see the capture. e5 it is. Another pop quiz. What is your move in this position? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, there's only one move that is winning. Leela plays it. It's f5. Now, what's right around the corner for black is a knight outpost on e5. That's what's happening here. Black's trying to carve out a square on e5 for this knight that's in white's house but out of play. If you take on e5, this is considered a draw. This knight is too good. Very strong piece. So f5 is the way. Also, queen g3 would not be the way, supporting f4, because again, this square is going to open up. So the way to play it is with f5. Knight e8. And from here we have rook to d1. King g8 is played here. Now, this rook backing off, I believe it's getting in a position to potentially tame this knight if it wants to get into this b4 square. Now, how it's played here, king g8. If this knight goes to c7, here's an arrangement we may have ended up seeing. Rook a1, rook a3, and after the knight hops in here, the rook on a3, a very flexible piece. It has the responsibility to watch over the a pawn, has nice lateral options once the queen moves. White in such a position can play bishop to b1 and say bishop is controlling the knight. Bishop is also reinforcing the f5 pawn. Things are under control. Rook has this. Both knights would remain under control. All right, black does not try to maneuver into the weakened b4 square. We have king g8, rook a1 to a3, and where are we going to see progress made? From here, queen g3, knight e8, f6, queen d7. Now, if the queen, rather than queen d7, if the knight goes, let's say, back to c7, it's been jumping around to these two squares for a bit now. If the knight plays here, this would be a strong idea for Leela. Bishop d1. And next up, this knight is going to fall. There's nothing you could really do about this. The knight is going to be tracked. This pawn is going to be pulled away from the h-file. Let's see what this might look like. Keep in mind, a knight capture. White is in a spot to take towards the center, have a connected passer. The queen is supporting the rook. Let's say the knight falls back to e8 here to illustrate. If this capture is allowed on g4, this would be a disaster for black. If you exchange queens like this pawn is going to fall. The king has all day to just walk on over here and scoop up the pawn. And if you take with the pawn, this here, straight away, a very strong idea. Capture on h5, there's queen h4, rook a2, rook h2, queen takes pawn in some order, and eventually you're going in for mate. So this is a dangerous idea that is nearby for Leela to knock out the g4 knight, finally, only after establishing a super invasive pawn on f6. Black does not allow this at this stage. After queen d7, knight c3 goes in for the piece sacrifice, tracks down two pawns, and from here, it's a bishop versus pawn imbalance. Let's just see the conversion at this stage. Rook on an open file. Rook super active here. on c6, pressure on d6. Next up, knight b5. Slow, steady progress here. Black in a restricted state. Look at everything. All pieces on the back rank. And look at how invasive the white pieces are. Base point under fire. All right, queen e7, rook b6, queen enters. We see a queen exchange from here. If black gives the queen a kick, okay, you back off and say, this is potentially a problem. You know, bishop d1, a sacrifice here, maybe even a knight retreat, and a quick shifting to the g file. It's not going to end well for black, however you slice it. So we see a queen exchange, and this one doesn't go on too much further. Everything falls apart at this stage. Leela cleaning house now has two connected passers. This pawn can be stopped by the bishop. There we go. And from here, we just keep on pushing with the passers. This one goes straight to checkmate. So let's see what this looks like. Silly check thrown in by Berserk. And the d-pawn runs wild, eventually queening. And there we go. Checkmate. So really interesting game. Space for Leela, just going all the way back to this moment here. Once we had this exchange, really interesting to see how this structure in particular was handled by Leela. Nothing super direct. Bishop pair, space. We had the kingside play. G4, H4, G5, robbing that square, and then working around, fast forwarding a little bit, working around this knight on G4. Really instructive for me to see. Seems like a pesky piece, but then once the king is no longer around, it's over here on the queen side. It's like, what in the world are you doing? This knight right here on G4. And that rook maneuver to E2. That was beautiful. Wonderful to see these strategies in action, I gotta say. This is some deep stuff. To allow a knight in your house and render it out of play. It's really awesome. Anyhow, your thoughts with this one? Feel free as usual to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.